nodding at Zebra and placing it on a windowsill where it shimmered in the summer sunlight. The next day, John Wilson informed everyone that 3 students would be leaving the class at the end of July. He asked each of those students to make a drawing for him that he would get to keep, something to remember them by. All the other drawings and sculptures they could take home. Zebra lay awake a long time that night, staring into the darkness of his room. He could think of nothing to draw for John Wilson. In the morning he sat gazing out the classroom window at the sky and the helicopter on the sill. "What are you going to draw for him?" Andrea said. Zebra shrugged and he didn't know. "Use your imagination," she said. And then she said, "Wait, what am I seeing here? Are you able to move those fingers?" "I think so." "You think so?" The doctor said there was some improvement. Her eyes glistened behind the thick lenses. She seemed genuinely happy. He sat looking out the window. Dark birds wheeled and soared. There was sound of traffic. The helicopter sat on the windowsill, its egg beater rotor blades ready to move at full throttle. Later that day, Zebra sat at his desk at home, working on a drawing. He held the large sheet of paper in place by pressing down on it with the palm and fingers of his left hand. He drew a landscape, hills and valleys, forests and flatlands, rivers and plateaus. Oddly, it all seemed to resemble a face. Racing together over that landscape were a helicopter and a zebra. It was all he could think to draw. It was not a very good drawing. He signed it, "To John Wilson, with thanks, Zebra." The next morning, John Wilson looked at the drawing and asked Zebra to write on the top of the name, "John Wilson," the name Leon. He was an old buddy of mine, an artist. We were in Vietnam together. Would have been a much better artist than I'll ever be. Zebra wrote in the new name. "Thank you kindly," John Wilson said, taking the drawing. "Zebra, you have yourself a good time in camp and a good life. It was real nice knowing you." He took Zebra's hand. How strong his fingers felt. "I think I'm going to miss you a little," Andrea said to Zebra after the class. I'll only be away a month." "Can I help you carry some of those drawings?" "Sure, I'll carry the helicopter." Zebra went off to camp in the Adirondack Mountains. He hiked and read and watched others playing ball. In the arts and crafts program, he made some good drawings and even got to learn a little bit about watercolors. He put together clowns and airplanes and helicopters out of discarded cardboard and wood and clothing. From time to time, his hand hurt, but the fingers seemed slowly to be coming back to life. "Patience, young man," the doctors told him when he returned to the city. "You're getting there." 1 or 2 additional operations were still necessary, but there was no urgency, and he no longer needed the leg brace. On the first day of school, one of the secretaries found him in the hallway and told him to report to Mrs. English. "Did you have a good summer?" Mrs. English asked. "It was okay. This came for you in the mail." She handed him a large brown envelope. It was addressed to Adam Zebrin, 8th grade, at the school. The sender was John Wilson, with a return address in Virginia. "Adam, I admit I'm very curious to see what's inside," Mrs. English said. She helped Zebra open the envelope. Between 2 pieces of cardboard were a letter and a large color photograph. The photograph showed John Wilson down on his right knee before a glistening dark wall. He wore his army jacket and blue jeans and boots, with a cap and the words Land Rover. Leaning against the wall to his right was Zebra's drawing of the helicopter and the zebra racing together across a face-like landscape. The drawing was enclosed in a narrow frame. The wall behind John Wilson seemed to glitter with a strange black light. Zebra read the letter and showed it to Mrs. English. "Dear Zebra, one of the people whose names are on this wall was among my very closest friends. He was an artist named Leon Kellner. Each year I visit him and leave a gift, something very special that someone creates and gives me. I leave it near his name for a few hours, then I take it to my studio in Virginia, where I keep a collection of those gifts. All year long I work in my studio, but come summer I go looking for another gift to give him. Thank you for your gift. Your friend, John Wilson. P.S. I hope your hand is healing." Mrs. English stood staring a while at the letter. She turned away and touched her eyes. Then she went to a shelf on the wall behind her, took down a large book, leaped through it quickly, found what she was looking for, and held it out for Zebra to see. Zebra found himself looking at the glistening black wall of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., and at the names on it, the thousands of names. Later, in the schoolyard during recess, Zebra stood alone at the chain-link fence and gazed down at the street toward Franklin Avenue. He thought how strange it was that all the houses in the street had seemed to turn toward John Wilson that day, the windows and porches and columns and doors, as if saluting him. Had it only been his mission? Maybe, Zebra thought, just maybe he could go for a walk to Franklin Avenue on Saturday or Sunday. He had not walked along Franklin Avenue since the accident. He had not gone down that steep hill. Yes, he would walk carefully down that hill to the corner and walk back up and past the school and then the 4 blocks home. Andrea came over to him. "We didn't get picked for the story class with Mrs. English," she said. "I won't have to listen to any more of your gloomy stories." Zebra said nothing. "You know, I think I'll walk home today instead of taking the school bus," Andrea said. "Actually, I think I'll walk too," Zebra said. "I was thinking maybe I could pick up some really neat stuff in the street." "You are becoming a pleasant life form," Andrea said.